Hello, doctor. My name is Aya Obaid. My presentation is about my experience in cooking inspired by formalism theory. So, first of all, I will answer the question that's what is the importance of studying literary theories that makes our lives better. So, sometimes when we read about literary matters, whether it is a story or a specific novel or a literary theory, so all of us don't believe it only because of pleasure and entertainment. But when we go through a particular incident and remember what we read from the literary text before, then we will recognize the importance of literary and the lesson we have read or studied in a literary work, that is embodied events or works of other people who are negative or positive. And through these events, we can make experiments that have changed our lives for the better. So, the reality of real life has changed from different and profound perspectives of philosophical aspects. For example, when we read the novel of Wuthering Heights, the simplest lesson is that the importance of our life, which is the phrase that's said by Ibn Front about the importance of time, and it embeds especially the morning when he says when a man who wants to waste his time or her or she must wake at 7 a.m. But if he wakes at 10 a.m., then he must know that his day is up and unable to do anything. So this refers to the using time in these right ways, and it is the simplest of lessons that we can learn from literature in general. I will talk about the food because many critics consider eating food as a biological process that a person carries out in order to provide his body with that it needs. So to ensure that it carries out law of life activities, but this was not the case because food has social, cultural, emotional, and religious connotation in many people. Before it is a just physical need that is satisfied to the point to the point where it is difficult to separate human history from the history of food in general, and food has been one of the most important signs of civilization and urbanization through the age. It is difficult to separate the human history from history of food in general, and food has been one of the most important signs of urbanization throughout the age. So, in the introduction of the book, the cooking, so food is necessary for human needs, and meaning that it is rooted in the biology of perpetuating existence. So the necessity of preparing meal didn't appear with the emergence of man, but rather preceded, because it is a life necessity shared by all living things. But with his attention to rational person satisfying this necessity became costly to devise. But with his ascension of rational person satisfying this necessity became costly to devise a new method that diversity of evolved with the development of the community, social, and thus human civilization. On the sequence of the history of food in the world, scientists say that the cooking process began about 2.5 million years ago, and a half million years later, so the transformation of human-like creatures or human ancestors began from eating nuts to consuming meat. But the beginning of history of human cooking didn't begin as it seems and as the fossils incident, except with the emergence of stone stoves of 2050 years ago that is beginning to use fire regularly and with a new technique organized. So the first society was the hunter-gatherer community, which lasted for a period of at least 1080 years, and the technology of female-led cooking in most cases was primitive, while the man was interested in hunting operations and protecting those around him. So, because cooking tools were more sophisticated and important than simple fishing tools in terms of manufacturing, the female enjoyed a prominent place in society. So food has become tremendous transformations with the world due to the many discoveries and modern technologies, as food has turned into an industry in itself, and the fast food has become an integral part of this world. So the benefit of learning the art of cooking, basic skills are skills that every person should acquire, and science food is essential in a daily life. So a person is sure to get bored of repeating the same food every day. And since there are those who prepare their own food, they can control the calories contained in the food, thus maintaining weight as well as saving a lot of money that is spent or on ready meals. The love of cooking begins at an early age for many, and it can develop for others in advanced stage of life. So the love of cooking is one of the talents that some have, while others suffer from their lack of love for the idea of entering the kitchen in the general. So I have chosen the formalism theory, and it inspired on the experience of cooking. So first of all, formalism is known as an important trend of thought from historical perspective, also its effect on people's perception and on their analytical skills awaits further analysis. So as we know, formal is concerned with work structure. So nowadays we found many people attracted to the cooking and the way of making the shape of dishes attractive to people. But also we cannot ignore the important things that must be perfect before the design of the food. Have to be aware how to choose the ingredients of such a meal that we want to prepare. So firstly, when we prepare such a meal, think about the basic thing, which is the formalist of this meal, because it is the major feature of the meal. So cooking means magic touch, which makes the taste delicious as it is in any work that can do. Cooking has certain types, including simple, intermediate, and complex. We mean by simple such as fast food, and also while intermediate food which is need time for 10 to 20 minutes such as lasagna, and while the complex that need a long time such as the dolma Iraqi food. For example, when we start to do a dolma cooking, we start with main ingredients which are grape leaves, potatoes, tomatoes, onion, and eggplant. So all of these we mentioned can give up about one of them, but there are important ingredients that cannot be abandoned. For example, salt and spices. When we lose one of these ingredients, the cooking is not complete, as well as the theory. We must know its properties and elements. So my experience in cooking comes by watching and learning many times how to be perfect chef in my kitchen. So throughout the learning, I found myself interested in formalist of cooking because this was what makes the meal perfect and makes the person attracted to the food. So we can conclude from this topic that is practiced by men and women, which is cooking one of the literary purposes that can be described because every theory needs components and steps. So these steps can be applied to any text until we extract the main idea. So as well as the case in cooking, when we prepare the ingredients and we get a delicious dish, as everything appears with ingredients and ends with a result. So the result we get in the end is the delicious taste, like formalism theory by which we can analyze a taste and understand a topic. Thank you for listening.